The Kepler defense line stretched across 3 star systems, humanity's first real test against the Dominion's full military might. Admiral Tai Min Seo commanded the newly formed human battle fleet from his flagship, the Soul's Revenge. Around him, 200 human ships waited in formations that would have horrified traditional military theorists. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Commander So Young Huang from the tactical station, "Dominion forces are entering sensor range. 300 vessels, including 5 command ships larger than anything we have ever seen." Admiral Seo nodded calmly. 6 weeks of preparation had led to this moment. Human shipyards had worked around the clock, converting civilian vessels into warships and building new fighters designed specifically for close combat. More importantly, they had trained crews to fight in ways that no other species would consider honorable. "All ships," he broadcast to the fleet, "remember your training. The enemy expects us to fight like civilized beings. Disappoint them." The Dominion fleet approached in perfect formation, their black ships gleaming with deadly purpose. They had conquered 17 galaxies using the same tactics, and they saw no reason to change now. Establish superiority through overwhelming firepower, then systematically destroy all resistance. But as they closed range, something unexpected happened. The human fleet scattered. Instead of meeting the Dominion in traditional battle formation, human ships broke into small groups and attacked from every direction. Some used asteroid fields for cover. Others hid behind planets and moons. A few actually flew directly into the enemy formation, using ramming attacks and suicide runs. Dominion Admiral Kethvar watched the chaos with confusion. "What are they doing? This is not proper fleet combat. They are fighting like primitives." His second-in-command, a being called Morgeth, studied the tactical display. "Sir, we are taking heavy casualties despite our superior numbers. Their unpredictable movements are making it difficult to target them effectively." Captain Dae-ho Kim commanded a squadron of 12 converted exploration ships. His vessels were smaller and weaker than Dominion warships, but they were also faster and more maneuverable. He used these advantages ruthlessly. "Blue Squadron," he ordered, "Pattern Wolfpack 7. Target their sensor arrays, not their weapons. I want them blind and confused." His ships swept through the Dominion formation like sharks, firing at seemingly random targets. But there was a method to their attacks. By destroying sensors and communication equipment, they forced enemy ships to operate independently. This disrupted the Dominion's greatest strength: perfect coordination. Lieutenant Colonel So Young Huang led the most dangerous mission of the battle. While the main fleets fought in space, she commanded boarding parties tasked with capturing enemy vessels intact. The Dominion had never faced this type of close-quarters combat. Her assault shuttle, the Busan's Blade, attached itself to a Dominion cruiser like a parasite. Cutting through the hull with plasma torches, her troops entered the enemy ship in full battle armor. The Dominion crew were individually superior fighters, stronger and faster than humans, but they had never trained for shipboard combat. They were used to controlling battles from a distance, using superior technology to win without personal risk. So Young's troops used every dirty trick human soldiers had learned over thousands of years. They set traps, used the ship's own systems against its crew, and fought in ways that violated every rule of civilized warfare. Within 2 hours, they had captured the bridge. "Admiral," she reported to Taemin Seo, "enemy cruiser Red 7 is under human control. We have access to their command codes and tactical database." This intelligence proved crucial. Chief Engineer Junho Park's teams had been reverse engineering captured Dominion technology for weeks. Now they could see how all the systems worked together. "Their ships are incredibly advanced," he explained to Admiral Seo during a brief lull in the fighting. "But they have one critical weakness. Everything is networked together. If we can hack their command systems, we can turn their own weapons against them." The second phase of the battle began when human ships started broadcasting Dominion command codes. Enemy vessels received conflicting orders, firing on each other in confusion. Some shut down completely as their systems crashed from contradictory instructions, but the most devastating weapon was psychological. Dr. Min-ho Kang had prepared special broadcasts to demoralize enemy forces. Using captured Dominion communication systems, human ships transmitted footage from Earth's military history. Dominion troops, expecting to fight peaceful explorers, instead saw images of human warfare at its most brutal. Soldiers charging into machine gun fire, pilots flying suicide missions against impossible odds, cities destroyed and rebuilt, only to be destroyed again in the next war. The message was clear. Humans had not abandoned violence because they were weak. They had mastered it so completely that they chose peace. Now that choice was over. Dominion Admiral Kethvar watched his perfect formation dissolve into chaos. Ships that had never retreated were pulling back in confusion. His own crew was showing signs of fear, something he had never seen before. "Sir," Morgeth reported, his voice shaking, "we have lost over 100 ships. Our attack formations are completely disrupted. The humans are using tactics we have never encountered." "Impossible," Kethvar replied, but he could see the truth on his tactical displays. The supposedly cowardly humans were fighting like madmen, using their own ships as weapons and showing no regard for their own safety. The decisive moment came when Captain Gitak Moon's experimental squadron arrived. His ships were equipped with humanity's most dangerous weapons, quantum disruption torpedoes that could chain react through entire fleets. "All vessels," Moon broadcast on an open channel. "This is Captain Moon of the Soul's Vengeance. Any Dominion ship that does not surrender immediately will be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to decide." The Dominion response was predictable. They opened fire with everything they had, believing their superior technology would protect them. They were wrong. The quantum torpedoes tore through Dominion shields like paper. Worse, the weapons created cascade failures that jumped from ship to ship, destroying entire formations in minutes. The Dominion's greatest strength, their networked systems, became their weakness as the quantum disruptions spread through their fleet. Admiral Kethvar watched in horror as his command ship systems began failing. Around him, his perfect fleet was dissolving into scrap metal and radiation. "Retreat," he ordered, something no Dominion commander had ever done. "All ships, withdraw to rally point 7. But it was too late for an orderly retreat. Human ships pursued the fleeing Dominion vessels, picking off stragglers and capturing damaged ships. What had begun as a Dominion victory parade had become a rout. Lieutenant Dongwu Nam, now promoted to full commander, led a pursuit squadron that chased Dominion ships to the edge of the system. "Admiral Seo," he reported, "enemy forces are in full retreat. We count 47 destroyed, 32 captured, and the rest fleeing toward deep space." Admiral Seo allowed himself a small smile. "And our casualties?" 38 ships lost, 67 damaged but repairable. "Sir, we actually won." The victory at Kepler sent shockwaves through both the Dominion and the Federation. For the first time in their history, Dominion forces had been defeated in open battle. More importantly, they had been defeated by the species they had most underestimated. Across the galaxy, Federation worlds celebrated. But on the Dominion homeworld, their supreme command was learning a hard lesson. They had studied every species in the galaxy except one. They knew how Altarans fought, how Vakari planned, how Zephyrians used technology. But they had dismissed humans as irrelevant cowards. Now they understood their mistake. Humans did not fight like other species. They had spent thousands of years fighting each other, learning every possible way to wage war. They were not just soldiers. They were students of conflict who could adapt and improvise in ways that confused more rigid minds. The Dominion's final message to the human fleet was transmitted just before their ships jumped to hyperspace. It was not a threat or a demand for surrender. It was something much more ominous. "We underestimated you," the transmission said. "We will not make that mistake again. When we return, we will bring everything we have. Prepare for total war." Admiral SEO shared the message with Earth Command. General Yoon's response was characteristically direct. "Good. Now they know what they are really fighting. Let them bring everything. We will be ready." But privately, All the human commanders understood the truth. The Kepler defense had been humanity's introduction to galactic warfare. The real test was yet to come. 6 months after their defeat at Kepler, the Dominion returned to the galaxy with a vengeance. Their fleet was unlike anything ever assembled. 10,000 ships from across 17 conquered galaxies, crewed by their finest warriors and equipped with weapons designed specifically to counter human tactics. Fleet Admiral Kyung-Soo Han stood on the bridge of the UESS Earth's Shield, humanity's new flagship, and watched the enemy force emerge from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. The Dominion had learned from their mistakes. This time they brought overwhelming numbers and adaptive strategies. "Sir," reported Captain Min Jae Lee from the sensor station, "confirmed count is 9,800 vessels. They are maintaining tight formation and advancing slowly. No sign of the chaotic attacks we used at Kepler." Admiral Han nodded grimly. Intelligence reports had warned him that the Dominion had studied every second of their previous battle. They had countered human unpredictability by developing flexible response protocols. This would not be another easy victory, but humanity had not been idle either. The months since Kepler had transformed the galaxy, Federation species that had once dismissed human militarism now begged Earth to teach them warfare. Alien volunteers served on human ships, learning to fight the human way. More importantly, human shipyards had produced the largest battle fleet in galactic history. Dr. Haewon Kim's research team had spent those months developing humanity's ultimate weapon, quantum disruption torpedoes that could chain react through entire fleets. The technology was based on theoretical physics that other species considered impossibly dangerous. Humans, with their history of nuclear weapons, understood that sometimes the most terrible weapons were necessary to prevent even worse wars. "Admiral," came a voice from the communication station. "Message from President Song. She wishes the fleet good hunting and reminds us that Earth is depending on us." Admiral Han opened a channel to all human ships. "This is Admiral Han to all vessels. Today we fight not just for Earth but for every free world in the galaxy. The enemy believes overwhelming force can break our spirit. They are about to learn why that has never worked against humans." The first phase of the battle began in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Human forces had spent weeks preparing the field, turning space rocks into hidden weapons platforms and sensor networks. As the Dominion fleet advanced, they found themselves in a maze of obstacles and traps. Captain Gi-taek Moon commanded the experimental squadron aboard the Sol's Vengeance. His ships were equipped with the most advanced human technology, including the prototype quantum weapons. But he also carried something more traditional: nuclear mines disguised as asteroids. "Enemy formation is entering the belt," reported Lieutenant Commander Yoo-Jin Park. "They are scanning for threats, but our mines are reading as natural iron deposits." Captain Moon waited until the Dominion vanguard was fully committed to the asteroid field. "Detonate all mines. Give them a taste of human nuclear fire." The explosions lit up space like newborn stars. Hundreds of Dominion ships vanished in atomic fire, their advanced shields useless against weapons they had never expected to face. Nuclear explosions were considered primitive by galactic standards, but primitive did not mean ineffective. But the Dominion adapted quickly. Their rear formations changed course, bypassing the asteroid field entirely. They had accepted the loss of their vanguard as necessary to understand human tactics. The second phase began near Jupiter's moons. Admiral Han had positioned his main battle fleet in the shadow of the gas giant, using its magnetic field to mask their approach. As Dominion ships moved to engage, human vessels emerged from hiding with devastating surprise attacks. Lieutenant Colonel So-Young Hwang led boarding parties against the largest Dominion command ships. Her troops had trained for months in close quarters combat, learning to fight in the cramped corridors of enemy vessels. They carried weapons that fired explosive rounds, turning the Dominion's own corridors into death traps. "Bridge secured," she reported from the captured Dominion flagship. "We have their tactical database and command codes. Uploading to Fleet Command now." This intelligence allowed human forces to predict Dominion movements and counter them effectively. More importantly, it revealed the location of the enemy's ultimate weapon. a planet-killer device capable of destroying entire worlds. Dr. Haiwan Kim monitored the battle from her laboratory ship, the Newton's Revenge. Her quantum weapons had performed better than expected, but she knew the decisive moment was coming. The Dominion still had numerical superiority and would eventually overwhelm human forces through sheer attrition. "Admiral Han," she broadcast, "I am reading massive energy buildup from the Dominion planet killer. They are preparing to destroy Earth." Admiral Han felt ice in his veins. The enemy had decided that if they could not conquer humanity, they would eliminate them completely. "How long do we have?" 30 minutes until the weapon reaches full charge. Once fired, there is no defense. The final phase of the battle became a desperate race. Human ships threw themselves at the Dominion fleet with suicidal fury, trying to reach the planet killer before it could fire. Admiral Han led the charge personally, his flagship taking terrible damage as it pushed through enemy lines. Captain Dae-ho Kim, now commanding a squadron of captured Dominion vessels, used the enemy's own ships against them. Flying false flag operations, his forces infiltrated Dominion formations and attacked from within, creating confusion and friendly fire incidents. But it was Commander Dongwoo Nam who provided the solution. Studying his great-grandfather's war journals, he remembered a tactic from ancient Earth conflicts, the kamikaze attack, where pilots deliberately crashed their aircraft into enemy targets. "Admiral," he broadcast, "I am requesting permission to ram the planet killer with my ship. The Soul's Promise is heavily damaged and cannot retreat anyway. If I can get close enough, my quantum torpedoes might be able to chain react through their weapon systems." Admiral Han wanted to refuse. Dongwoo was a good officer with a bright future, but looking at the tactical display, he could see no other option. "Permission granted, Commander, make it count." Dongwoo's ship, battered and bleeding atmosphere, made its final run. Dominion defenders poured fire into the Soul's Promise, but the little vessel kept coming. At the last moment, Dongwoo fired every quantum torpedo he had directly into the planet killer's core. The explosion was visible from Earth. The Dominion superweapon vanished in a ball of quantum fire that expanded to engulf dozens of nearby ships. But more importantly, the chain reaction spread through the enemy fleet's networked systems, causing cascade failures across their entire formation. Dominion Supreme Commander Vexithol watched his perfect fleet dissolve into chaos. Ships that had never known defeat were exploding for no apparent reason. His crews, bred for absolute obedience, were panicking as their systems failed around them. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we have lost 60% of the fleet to the human quantum weapons. Our command network is compromised. Many ships are not responding to orders." Vexthul had conquered 17 galaxies, but he had never faced anything like this. These humans fought with a combination of advanced technology and primitive savagery that defied every tactical manual. They used their own ships as weapons and seemed to welcome death in battle. "Broadcast retreat order," he commanded. "All surviving ships withdraw to the edge of the galaxy. We will regroup and—" "Sir," the tactical officer interrupted, "the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies. They want to speak with you directly." Admiral Han's image appeared on the Dominion flagship's main screen. He looked tired but determined, every inch the warrior that his species had always been. "Supreme Commander Vexthul," he said calmly, "I am Fleet Admiral Kyung-Soo Han of Earth. You have lost this battle and this war. Withdraw your forces from our galaxy, and we will let you leave alive." Vexthul studied the human commander's face, seeing something that chilled him to his core. This was not mercy or compassion. This was the calculated decision of a predator that had proven its superiority. "And if we refuse?" Vexthul asked. Admiral Han's expression did not change. "Then we will hunt down every ship in your fleet, capture every world you control, and ensure that the Dominion never threatens another galaxy again. You have seen what we do when we are merely defending ourselves. Do not make us come looking for you." The threat was delivered without emotion, but its sincerity was absolute. Vexthul understood that humanity was offering him a choice between retreat and extinction. "We withdraw." he said finally. But this is not over. Other galaxies will hear of your aggression. They will come for you. Admiral Han nodded. Let them come. We will be ready. As the surviving Dominion ships fled the galaxy, Earth celebrated its greatest victory. Humanity had not only survived but had proven itself the dominant military power in known space. The species that the galaxy had dismissed as peaceful cowards had saved them all. President Jin Song addressed the reformed Galactic Federation from the same hall where Ambassador Veltharos had once praised human pacifism. But now the alien delegates looked at her with a mixture of gratitude and fear. My fellow beings, she said, we have learned hard lessons about the nature of peace. The Federation Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Representatives from dozens of worlds shouted at each other in panic. Some demanded immediate surrender to the Dominion. Others wanted to fight, but had no idea how. Many simply blamed Earth for leading them into centuries of peaceful weakness. President Jin Song sat calmly in the human section, while aliens pointed fingers and made accusations. She had expected this reaction. When people are scared and unprepared, they look for someone to blame. This is your fault, screeched Ambassador Zilkar of the hegemony worlds. You humans convinced us that peace was the answer to everything. You made us weak. Chancellor Mordak tried to maintain order, but his voice was lost in the shouting. The great federation that had lasted for centuries was falling apart in a single day. Dr. Sujin Park leaned over to President Song. Should I respond to their accusations? No, President Song replied quietly. Let them panic. They will calm down when they realize we are their only hope. Back on Earth, General Byung-ho Yoon worked 18-hour days preparing humanity's war machine. He had spent decades in retirement, but his mind was still sharp. More importantly, he had never stopped thinking about war. While other species enjoyed peace, he had quietly developed battle plans for every possible scenario. His first assessment was brutally honest. The Federation's combined military could barely handle a single Dominion battle group. Most alien weapons were designed for police work, not warfare. Their ships were built for exploration and trade, not combat. Their soldiers were peacekeepers who had never faced a real enemy. But humans were different. Captain Yoon Ju supervised the conversion of civilian ships into warships, and the process revealed something important. Human engineering was modular and adaptable. Ships could be reconfigured quickly because humans had always valued flexibility over specialization. Dr. Minho Kang presented his psychological analysis to a smaller group of human leaders. The other species see our adaptability as primitive, he explained. They prefer elegant, specialized solutions. But war is not elegant. War rewards those who can change faster than their enemies. Lieutenant Dongwoo Nam had made another important discovery. While studying Dominion battle recordings, he noticed something crucial. The invaders had perfect formations, flawless coordination, and overwhelming firepower. But they always followed the same patterns. They are too disciplined, he explained to Captain Dae-ho Kim. Every battle follows the same plan. They have never faced an enemy that could adapt during combat. Captain Dae-ho had been reassigned from diplomatic duties to military command. His ship, the Soul's Promise, was being fitted with weapons based on human historical designs. Kinetic weapons that other species considered crude but effective. Missiles that could think for themselves and change targets mid-flight. Close-range weapons for boarding actions. The Federation had banned such aggressive weapons centuries ago. They preferred clean energy beams that could disable without destroying. But humans remembered that sometimes you needed to destroy completely, to protect what mattered. Admiral Woo Jin Lee finally felt useful for the first time in years. The Galactic Military Command had given him real authority to prepare defenses. He knew it was probably too late, but he also knew that humans did their best work when everything seemed hopeless. 3 weeks after the Dominion ultimatum, the first test came. A small alien fleet, trying to flee to the Outer Rim, sent a distress call. Dominion ships were chasing them and they would be destroyed in hours. President Song made a decision that would change everything. Send Captain Yoon Bi-ju's squadron to help them. Ma'am, General Yoon warned. Her ships are not fully ready. The crews are still learning the new weapon systems. We could lose them all. We could, she agreed. But if we do nothing, those refugees will die, and the galaxy will know we chose safety over duty. It is time to show everyone what humans really are. Captain Yoon Bi-ju received her orders with grim satisfaction. Her squadron of 5 converted ships was tiny compared to the Dominion force hunting the refugees. But size did not always matter. In space combat, the Incheon's Fury and her sister ships reached the battle zone just as the Dominion vessels opened fire on the refugee fleet. The alien civilians were helpless, their ships designed for transport, not fighting. All ships, Captain Yoonbi commanded, remember our training. These aliens fight by rules. We do not have rules. Attack Pattern Chaos 7. Pattern Chaos 7 was something human tacticians had developed centuries ago. Instead of maintaining formation, each ship acted independently, using unpredictable movements and targeting priorities. To outside observers, it looked like complete confusion, but there was method in the madness. The Dominion ships, expecting a traditional formation, battle, found themselves fighting 5 separate enemies who refused to behave properly. The human ships used ramming speed, suicide attacks, and weapons that targeted crew members instead of ship systems. Captain Yoonbi's flagship took terrible damage, but she kept fighting. When her main weapons failed, she used her ship as a missile, ramming the largest Dominion vessel and destroying both ships in the explosion. Lieutenant Commander Park Jae-sung, second in command, barely survived the battle. His report to Earth Command was brief. Mission successful. Refugees saved. Captain Yoonbi died as she lived, protecting the innocent. The enemy retreated after losing half their force. But the most important part of his report was saved for last. Admiral, we captured 2 Dominion ships intact. They are badly damaged, but their systems are intact. We can learn from them. News of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than official reports. For the first time in weeks, Federation, worlds felt hope. The unstoppable Dominion had been stopped, at least temporarily. More importantly, other species began to see humans differently. The peaceful mediators had fought like demons when pushed to their limit. They had sacrificed themselves for alien refugees without hesitation. Chief Engineer Junho Park led the team studying captured Dominion technology. What they found was both encouraging and terrifying. The enemy ships were incredibly advanced, with weapons and defenses far beyond Federation standards, but they were also completely rigid in design. Their systems do not allow for modification, he reported to General Yoon. Everything is built for maximum efficiency, but there is no room for creativity or adaptation. If something breaks, it stays broken until they can return to base for repairs. Dr. Min-ho Kang studied the captured crew members, learning about Dominion psychology. They are a collective intelligence, he explained. Each individual is highly skilled, but cannot think independently. They follow orders perfectly but cannot improvise when plans fail. This knowledge shaped humanity's new strategy. They would not try to match Dominion technology or numbers. Instead, they would fight the kind of war humans knew best: chaotic, unpredictable, and brutal. General Yoon presented the plan to President Song. We will use asymmetric warfare, hit-and-run attacks, guerrilla tactics, psychological operations, everything we learned fighting each other throughout history. How long do we have? She asked. Intelligence suggests the main Dominion fleet will arrive in 6 weeks. They are bringing everything they have. This will be the final battle. President Song looked out at Earth's night sky, where construction lights marked the orbital shipyards working around the clock. Humanity had 6 weeks to prepare for the fight of their lives. She activated the emergency broadcast system, speaking directly to every human in the galaxy. My fellow humans, for 50 years we have been the galaxy's peacekeepers. We chose peace, because we understood the cost of war. But now war has chosen us. The Dominion believes we are cowards who abandoned fighting because we were weak. They are about to learn why we really stopped fighting each other. We did not stop because we could not fight. We stopped because we were too good at it. Now, we fight not for conquest or glory, but for survival. For our children, our friends, and our alien allies who trusted us to protect them. We are human. We do not seek war, but when war finds us, we become what we must. Across human space, the message was clear. The time for peace was over. The time for war had begun. Commander Heejin Choi's ship, the Busan Runner, limped through space toward the nearest Federation base. Half her crew was dead, and the ship's hull had holes that emergency shields barely kept sealed. But she was alive, and that made her the only person who had seen the Dominion and lived to tell about it. 3 days earlier, her reconnaissance mission had been routine. Check the outer systems, make sure trade routes were safe, report back to Earth Command. Then her sensors detected something impossible. Ships, hundreds of them, each one larger than anything in the Federation fleet. The Dominion vessels were beautiful in a terrible way, black metal that seemed to absorb light, with weapons that glowed, like captured stars. When they opened fire on a Federation outpost, the entire station vanished in seconds. Not destroyed, not damaged. Gone. Yejin had tried to retreat quietly, but the Dominion ships were fast. They chased her for hours, playing with her like a cat with a mouse. She only escaped because one of her engineers had a crazy idea to hide, inside a comet's tail. The Dominion ships gave up the chase, apparently deciding she was not worth the effort, but she had recorded everything. The attack, the ships, and most importantly, the communications she had intercepted. The Dominion had been watching the galaxy for a long time. They knew about every species, every world, every weakness. They called the Federation races soft civilizations, and laughed about how easy the conquest would be. Now Hyejin sat in an emergency meeting on Earth. President Jin A. Song looked tired as she studied the recordings. Around the table sat Earth's top military minds, most of whom had never expected to plan for real war. "Show them the communication intercept," President Song said quietly. Hyejin played the recorded Dominion transmission. The alien voice was cold and mechanical as it spoke to its fleet. "These creatures have forgotten how to fight. 3 centuries of peace have made them weak. We will take their worlds one by one, and they will thank us for ending their pathetic existence." General Byung-ho Yoon, who had been called out of retirement, shook his head. "They have been planning this for a long time. Look at their strategy. They wait for civilizations to grow comfortable, then strike when military readiness is at its lowest." Dr. Soo-Jin Park had returned from the peace summit looking shaken. "The Federation Council refuses to believe it is serious," she reported. "They think this is just another territorial dispute that can be solved with negotiations. They are sending diplomatic missions to make contact with the Dominion." "And?" President Song asked. 3 missions launched yesterday, all destroyed within hours of reaching Dominion space. No survivors, no messages, nothing. Lieutenant Dongwoo Nam, who served on Captain Dae-ho Kim's ship, raised his hand. "Ma'am, I have been studying historical records. My great-grandfather fought in the Korean War. He left detailed journals about enemy tactics. The Dominion is using strategies almost identical to what human armies developed centuries ago." The young officer connected his tablet to the main screen. "They establish forward bases, cut supply lines, and use psychological warfare to break enemy morale. But there is something else. They seem to have studied every major war in galactic history. They know how each species fights, how they think. What scares them?" General Yoon leaned forward. "What do they know about us?" Dongwoo hesitated. "According to the intercepted data, they believe humans are cowards who abandoned warfare because we were bad at it. They think our peaceful reputation means we cannot fight anymore." A grim silence filled the room. Everyone present knew how wrong the Dominion was, but they also knew the galaxy believed the same thing. Dr. Min-ho Kang, Earth's top military psychologist, spoke up. "I have been analyzing our situation. The good news is that every other species in the galaxy has followed predictable military patterns for centuries. The Alterans use defensive formations, the Vakari prefer long-range combat, the Zephyrians rely on superior technology. And the bad news?" President Song asked. The Dominion has fought all these types of enemies before. They have counters for every traditional strategy, but they have never faced anything like human warfare. Dr. Kang brought up another display. Human military thinking is unique in the galaxy. We developed our strategies fighting against ourselves. We learned to be unpredictable because predictable armies died quickly. We learned to adapt because rigid thinking lost wars. Most importantly, we learned that sometimes the only way to win is to do things that seem impossible. Captain Yunbi Ju, who commanded one of Earth's few military vessels, spoke from experience. Our ships were designed for exploration, but they can be reconfigured quickly for combat. Most alien vessels are built for one purpose and cannot change. That gives us an advantage. President Song stood up and walked to the window overlooking Earth's capital. The city was peaceful, full of people who had never known war, but she knew that peace existed only because humans had chosen it, not because they were unable to fight. General Yoon, she said finally, how long would it take to prepare Earth's defenses? With current resources, we could hold off a small attack but not a full invasion. However, if we mobilize completely, convert civilian ships and activate our reserve forces. He paused, calculating. Give me 6 months and I can give you a real military. You have 3 months, President Song replied. Maybe less. As the meeting ended, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. The Alteran homeworld had gone silent. The Vakari trade routes were under attack. The Zephyrian research stations were being destroyed one by one. The Dominion was moving faster than anyone had expected. Lieutenant Dongwu Nam stayed behind to speak with Dr. Sujin Park. Doctor, do you really think the galaxy will accept humans becoming warriors again? She looked at him sadly. They will have to. The alternative is extinction. But Dongwu, once we start down this path, we cannot go back. The galaxy has seen us as peaceful mediators for 50 years. When they see what we really are in war, everything will change. Maybe that is not such a bad thing, he replied. Maybe it is time they understood that our peace was a choice, not a weakness. 3 days later, the Dominion broadcast a message to every world in the galaxy. The transmission showed their massive fleet, now numbering in the thousands. Their leader, a creature of metal and shadow, spoke in a voice like grinding stone. Soft ones, it said. You have 1 month to surrender, unconditionally. Resist and we will erase you from existence. We have conquered 17 galaxies using these same methods. You are nothing special. Then the creature did something unexpected. It laughed, a sound like breaking glass. We are especially curious about the humans' response. Our studies indicate they are the most cowardly species in your Federation. We look forward to watching them run. The transmission ended, but its message was clear. The Dominion had made their biggest mistake. They had insulted the wrong species at the wrong time. On Earth, President Song signed the mobilization order. Across human space, old soldiers came out of retirement. Factories that had made exploration equipment began building weapons. Ships, designed for science, were fitted with armor and guns. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had really stopped fighting each other. It was not because they were bad at war. It was because they had become too good at it. The Great Hall of Nexus Prime buzzed with hundreds of alien voices. Representatives from across the galaxy had gathered for the annual Peace Summit. Captain Daeho Kim sat in the human section, his uniform crisp and his face calm. But inside, he felt uncomfortable. Ambassador Veltharos, a tall reptilian creature with golden scales, stepped up to the speaking platform. His voice echoed through the hall as translation devices converted his words into every known language. My friends, Veltharos began, today we celebrate 50 years of human membership in our great federation. When we first met the humans, we feared them. Their history was full of war and violence. They fought each other for thousands of years. We wondered if such a species could ever find peace. Daeho shifted in his seat. Beside him, Dr. Sujin Park, Earth's chief cultural expert, frowned slightly. She had heard this speech before and it always made her feel strange. But look at them now. Veltaros continued, gesturing toward the human delegation. In just 50 years, humans have become our greatest peacekeepers. They settle disputes between worlds. They negotiate treaties. They have truly evolved beyond their violent past. The alien audience clapped and cheered. Deho noticed how they looked at the humans with approval and relief. These aliens believed humans had changed completely. They thought Earth's people had somehow lost their ability to fight. Dr. Sujin Park stood up when called to speak. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but Deho knew she was one of the smartest people in the galaxy. "Thank you, Ambassador Veltharos," she said. "We humans are indeed committed to peace. We have learned that talking is better than fighting. We prefer to build rather than destroy." Her words were true, but Deho knew they were not the whole truth. Humans had not stopped fighting because they could not fight anymore. They had stopped because there was nothing left to fight about. Earth had united after first contact with aliens. All the old reasons for war seemed silly when faced with the vastness of space and the friendship of other worlds. But the warrior spirit still lived in human hearts. Deho knew this because he had been a soldier. Before becoming a diplomat, he had fought in the border conflicts, the last wars on Earth. He remembered the feeling of battle, the quick thinking needed to survive, the brotherhood of soldiers, facing danger together. Admiral Wu Jin Lee sat in the back of the hall. He was Earth's representative to the Galactic Military Command, but his job was mostly ceremonial. The galaxy had been at peace for over 300 years. Most species had forgotten how to fight. Their weapons were old and weak. Their soldiers were really just police officers who kept order on peaceful worlds. Wu Jin often felt frustrated. He had studied military history and knew that peace could not last forever. Somewhere in the galaxy there might be enemies waiting. But when he tried to warn the Federation Council, they just smiled and patted his head like he was a worried child. The summit continued with reports from different worlds. The Alterans spoke about their successful meditation programs. The Vicari discussed their new art projects. The Zephyrians shared their latest scientific discoveries. Everything was peaceful and happy. Then came the announcement everyone was waiting for. Chancellor Mordak of the Federation Council stood up. He was an ancient being whose species had helped create the Federation centuries ago. "Friends," he said, "we have a new mission for our human allies. The Outer Rim has been experiencing some small conflicts. A few minor species are arguing over territory and resources. Nothing serious, just primitive behavior that needs gentle correction." Deho's eyes narrowed. He knew about the Outer Rim conflicts. They were not as simple as the Chancellor made them sound. Several worlds had been completely destroyed. Millions had died. But the Federation called it primitive behavior because they could not imagine real war. "We believe human diplomacy is perfect for this situation," Chancellor Mordak continued. "Humans understand violence because of their past, but they have grown beyond it. They can teach these younger species to find peace, just as humans learned to do." Dr. Sujin Park nodded politely, but Deho saw worry in her eyes. She understood what he understood. The Federation was sending humans to solve problems they did not fully understand. They expected human words to stop conflicts that might require human strength. As the summit ended, delegates began to leave. Aliens from dozens of species chatted happily about the bright future ahead. They felt safe knowing that humans, the former warriors turned peacekeepers, would handle any problems that arose. Deho was gathering his papers when his communication device beeped. The message was marked urgent and coded with the highest security level. He stepped into a private room to read it. Commander Hyejin Choi's face appeared on the small screen. She looked tired and scared, which was strange because Hyejin was the bravest person Deho knew. "Deho, we have a problem," she said. "A big problem. My ship was on patrol at the galaxy's edge when we detected something. A massive fleet, bigger than anything we have ever seen. They destroyed 3 Federation outposts before we could even send a warning." Deho felt his blood grow cold. "Who are they?" "Unknown," Hyejin replied. "But they left a message. They want the galaxy to surrender immediately, or they will destroy every world, every species, every life form they find. They called themselves the Dominion and Deho. She paused, her voice shaking. They knew about us. They knew about humans. They specifically mentioned that they were looking forward to testing our famous cowardice. The message ended, leaving Deho alone in the quiet room. Through the window, he could see alien delegates boarding their ships, happy and confident that the galaxy was safe. They had no idea that their 3-century peace was about to end. Deho thought about the ambassador's words. Humans had evolved beyond violence. They were natural peacekeepers. They feared war and had grown past their aggressive nature. But as he looked out at the stars, Deho knew the truth. Humans had never stopped being warriors. They had simply been waiting for a war worth fighting. And now, whether they wanted it or not, that war had found them. The galaxy was about to learn what humans really were when their backs were against the wall.